And I will call this meeting to order at 7:06 PM. First item on the agenda is approval of minutes from May 6th. Those, I do not believe made it into the meeting packet, but it was emailed prior to everybody. Does anybody need to look at the May 6th minutes before we have a motion on them? Hearing none, does anybody have a motion?
I'll motion that we approve the minutes.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, will be in line for a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed by saying no. We have to do it by roll because we have one member on Zoom. Bob Shatton?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It's aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Paul?
Guy, sorry I'm not there.
Chair says aye. The minutes are approved unanimously. Next item is the minutes from May 14th. I did not receive any suggestions for edits or amendments to them. Did anybody have anything? Do
No,
you need to take a look at them?
just remind me, is May was.
May 14
Was
is
this a public meeting or-
yeah, the one that in person here.
In person, no, that was fine, but no.
Does the chair hear a motion?
I'll move to approve the May 14th minutes.
Thank you. Danny, do you have a second?
Second.
And further discussion? Hearing none, would be in line for a vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. Bob Shatton?
Yeah, yay. Aye.
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 Not sure, I'm sorry.
And Paul?
Aye.
Chair says aye, passes unanimously. Next item are the minutes from May 20. I didn't do page numbers on my packets, sorry about that. Does anybody have, I had some amendments that I.
Yes, I saw those, I haven't put them in yet, but they're easy to do and
Okay,
they're expected.
it was just a couple straight proofreading marks and adding a couple things to that Shannon and Shelley were expected to do. Did anybody have anything else on May 20th? And then the motion the chair would smile favorably upon is a motion to approve as amended.
I'll make the motion.
Does
They're
the
the best
chair?
minutes, the last minutes I'm gonna do for.
No, 20th is the last one
Oh.
he's gonna do.
Okay, I thought we were just voting the 20th.
Yeah, we are right now. So do I hear a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye, those opposed no.
Aye.
Ready to go a little slower for me. Shelley,
Aye.
Catherine,
Aye.
Pratt, Paul.
Aye.
Chair says aye, they're adopted unanimously. And the last minutes are the minutes from the 28th. That's the virtual workshop. Again, I did not get anything from anybody. Does anybody know Jeff's last name? That was there?
Just spec.
I don't know. I don't know his
Jeff.
last name, but Jeff that was there.
Paul?
Yeah,
So I didn't go to that meeting, so I wouldn't vote on the minutes if I wasn't there, correct? Or,
I think they were beautiful.
That's your call.
that's my fault, there's no policy for abstaining for.
Shannon or Megan, you don't know us, do you?
At the virtual,
At the virtual.
I don't know.
Okay, well, it's just gonna, for perpetuity, be Jeff blank, unless Jeff reveals himself. Did anybody have any suggestions or corrections on those? Okay, do we have a motion? Please,
I motion to approve the minutes. Second.
okay, further discussion? Hearing none, would be in line for vote. Bob?
Aye.
And
Aye.
Shelley?
Aye.
You're not Shelley, Shelley.
Aye.
Catherine?
Aye.
Brad?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, minutes are approved unanimously. So next item on the agenda, I'd like just the briefest of discussions, please, about how the MCI conflict insurance is going, what we think about it, what we need to add in the coming days. Does Shelley still plan to go tomorrow?
Yes.
So we can try to limit this to about 5 minutes, high level. How do we feel it's going so far?
Brad and I were both at the meeting at 2, which is a slightly different answer to. I was also at the meeting, the first of the 2, charrette, open houses.
So I don't know that everybody's in the loop on what the 2 o'clock meeting is. Can you explain what it is, please?
Sure, the open houses are part of, the process of the week for the whole town, sort of MCI planning week. And, I guess 2 or 3 of us from this committee and some other sustainability people were invited to the
Yeah.
meeting at 2 o'clock with the guy who runs the firm which is doing this work.
Chris Dempsey.
Thank you. And he was very clear about what was going on, asked us a bunch of good questions, got us all to say stuff and walked us around, showed us the latest little sketch somebody had just done earlier this morning or something. I guess they're like constantly resketching it. It's a live process. We asked him a whole bunch of questions, like, how do you get to Chipotle was the question I asked. The answer was you get in your car, you drive out onto Route 2, you find your way to the exit from Route 2 and you go into Chipotle and then you drive home.
And that depends on, the Department of Transportation plans. And
There was a feeling that there ought to be a better solution and everyone was gonna work towards it, but nobody had a good idea or confidence that there would be some such a thing forthcoming, except maybe a bridge over Route 2.
But the Department of Transportation looks at this with a different set of lenses as everybody else. They'd like to be collaborative, but they don't see the world the same way that we see it necessarily. So we have to be careful, we have to try to look at.
When we say Department of Transportation, but Mass.
Yeah.
Mass.
Yeah.
So I was also there, and I agree that you messed up, so, the meeting's okay, but,
You know, and when we were looking at the map, we just lost track of our agenda and started saying, well, how about this on the map there, the site?
the, another thing that's talked about a lot is the network geothermal, and that seems to be seemingly also out of the wheelhouse of the meeting organizers, they didn't quite know what to do
Right, no,
with that.
What was the agenda or purpose or goal of the meeting?
Get sustainability input into this week-long exercise of collecting
right.
town input into their process. What he said was, well, I don't know anything about energy, but one of our associate contractors does,
Then knows,
Stantec. And so maybe, but I think what he really said was the town needs to ask us if they want us to think about energy issues for the site. And I gave my little pitch and handed him my 2-pager about this, and I do think a role for this committee would be to make some sort of specific proposal that the planning of MCI explicitly incorporate a ground source thermal energy loop for the MCI property and the associated housing land, which I guess is, he made an interesting comment that they're gonna spread the housing around the entire site, not just on that one. And because it was, and Chris from the light plant board said, well, we've talked about it as a light plant, and we don't think it's necessarily for us to raise issues about thermal energy networks on our own account, but if the town wanted us to be doing something about that, they better ask us.
right, so,
I'm sorry, it's late today, I'm being a little casual, that's not like the way he put it, he was very
right, no, he's
professional.
he is very much for, so having Chris Schaffner and Peter Lovis to be those, they spent a lot of thinking about it, and they were.
Can you remind us what their positions are, who they are?
Peter Lawson, maybe so?
Peter Lois is, was on the, Envision, the first vision command, committee for MCI, but he was in charge of land development at Devon's.
And in New Hampshire, there's a big eco-industrial park in New Hampshire.
Yeah. And then Chris is the green engineer who is on the, top of the light board. So the interesting thing to me was zoning can accomplish some things. seller requirements to accomplish other things, and so. Zoning can't necessarily force everybody to. Connect to a geothermal network, that's not what zoning is for, but it can make it possible to do it. There's certain aspects of it, so there's some interesting things that I think. Are well understood, they're new to me about that.
Yeah, I did raise zoning specifically and said, I think we need some learning and some creativity or creation about zoning provisions that would enable a thermal energy network on the site. It wouldn't require anybody to connect to it.
Yeah.
If you were an owner of a building or a tenant in the building, you could decide to put a water to air heat pump in your building.
Why wouldn't it require them to?
Well, it might conceivably, but if we already have rules that would require somebody to do electric heat pumps basically rather than gas. And if you provided a thermal resource at a reasonable price arrangement, running right across each of the front doors on the site, nobody in their right mind would like put in an air source with an outside compressor and the whole thing rather than just tapping into the ground source
Yeah,
thermally. So I don't think you'd have to require that somebody connect to it, but somebody would have to build and own that network, including the wells and the pipes
right,
around the site.
it's possible to make covenants for selling. This property to a big developer, that they do something specific, like, pursue this network idea with the, and, for example.
And if Concord wanted to make that point to the state and help everyone advance the ball, we could do some sort of a little design or feasibility study. Or ask our existing or new consultants to do that, so that there was a plan that the state could refer to, so. They would say, if you wanna buy this property, you've gotta implement something like this plan over here.
Right.
There's a lot more that could be said, but I think. Action is required by someone needs to take the initiative.
Right.
If they don't, it isn't gonna happen, this architectural team will not do it on their own. The light plant will not do it on its own, the state might,
Right.
but they might not think to,
And the question about the light plant is a question about what is the board of the light plant charter do? They have a set, they're about rates and also business planning.
providing electricity.
But they go and for them to go and say, oh, we wanna be in this new business is kind of what he thinks is out of bounds without being told, maybe through a town meeting article.
Or it could be the select board or the town manager could send a little message over saying, we think, how would you approach this?
Yeah,
What is your opinion about this? And, there's a lot of ways you could do it. But I propose that this committee think of a way to move, to sort of put the ball on the field and give it a nudge in the right direction toward the select board or someplace else, I'm not sure.
I think we need to own that responsibility.
And I think, by the way, I did want to mention that I think this could be part of preparing the update. In other words, I'd like to see the update say, we need thermal energy networks all over the place, but we don't have quite enough information assembled as the basis for that. Weston and Sampson could do that, thinking themselves, but I think we need to do a little more just as part of our mission to get the update out. Not necessarily to actually create the conditions in MCI to solve that problem, but maybe they talk about
the wastewater plant at all?
yes, that came up. That absolutely needs to be it's connected to the thermal energy system.
And I just was curious about sludge management and possibility, maybe we could have part of composting be digested there from.
Nobody talked about that.
Lots of energy.
There was a question came up, how are we gonna get trucks in there to bring sludge in or out, the way it's done at the wastewater treatment plant over near Great Meadows, near toward Bedford.
Okay,
There are big sludge trucks going in and out of the place all the time. And I don't think they have given any thought to where through the middle of this MCI pretty development they were developing these sludge trucks are gonna go.
right.
if you digest it, maybe there would be fewer.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Less sludge press and digest it, a little fertilizer for everybody in town.
So
I think you're on this one.
Right. I was gonna say, let's connect, cause like my neighbor reached out about the technology, the guy that came to the open public workshop, and anyway, his company does composting at big industrial sites.
Mhm.
And wanted to know if he could speak to the committee, so maybe we should.
I'm happy to take ownership of wastewater plant and with MCI. I mean, I don't know. The meetings are finished as of today? Or there are more meetings?
Well, so for this intensive, there's gonna be the wrap-up meeting
Tomorrow?
tomorrow.
At the high
But
school.
What time is that?
6 P.M.
I was also concerned about the, I think that was starting right by, there,
It's not final.
Yeah. How are we doing on your 5 minutes?
we are not doing well.
Okay.
Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, back to the geothermal district energy supply. Can we pass a resolution tonight saying we recommend they consider it? And then we can provide more details later on? Because I'm afraid if we don't get in there early, they're just gonna ignore this. And it just makes so much sense that it should be considered.
So, we could definitely do that. I didn't hear a motion, Matt.
Alright,
But, we would wanna have some very specific wording. So if you or Fran or somebody wants to take a minute to write it down and read it so that we've got like something specific we're voting on, we could do that today.
Are we voting on,
We're not voting on anything yet. Nobody's made a motion yet.
right, so we have to continue to do homework so that we know what we're proposing.
I think so. There are a lot of different people, entities that we would need to be advocating with. Right? So there's advocating with, key town staff. There's, if we're gonna try to do a digester, there's advocating with DPW. There's advocating with DCAM, with the the MCI planning committee, probably with the governor, the executive office, probably with our legislative delegation to try to get money and legal requirements that certain things happen. Cause that's the other way that you can do it, is you can tie it to money. Remembering this Concord Bridge article at the end of the year last year with Senator Barrett saying, if you want additional state support for MCI development, you've really gotta wow us with something remarkable. Well, I think what might speak to the senator is a neighborhood that is entirely microgridded, especially if we do digestion on top of it. There are a lot of things that could be appealing to an environmental legislator.
Did they talk about green architecture or regenerative architecture?
You talked about, Peter asked about whether you could, zone it to be lead for construction required. That would have to be a sales covenant. Apparently, you can't necessarily, zoning is, you're allowed to do certain things without getting some laws at the state level changed, I guess. Whereas when DCAM sells the part, they could, with our urging, place a covenant on
The sale.
construction.
So that's how that concept would dovetail into the new development then, from the sale of the property
Yeah,
versus a zoning change.
right.
Okay.
restrictions.
Yeah, because Peter Love's an expert on how to make that happen.
I think so.
Good. So that's great that you said.
So I just
No, in
wanted,
terms of,
just a moment, I just wanted to verify, somebody will be there tomorrow night, right? I cannot.
I'm not gonna.
You'll be there, Shelley, or you?
It's at 6 p.m. It starts at 6 p.m.
Starts at 6.
Starts at 6, okay. There were 4 events this week, is that it?
Well, it's one big
Auditorium.
festival of planning.
But the only one that was sustainability focused was the one that you all went to yesterday. So,
Yeah, I think that was one of the, like our climate action plan, there's multiple ways of places for input. And stakeholder conversations was one of them, and so it was a group focused on that. But I think there's still opportunity for input throughout the process.
I just want to point out to our members of the public that are on Zoom and here in the room as well. Traditionally, this committee accepts public comment on anything that's on our agenda at any time. If it's on the agenda and we're talking about it, you're welcome to raise your hand and seek recognition. Fran, are you still wordsmithing over there?
Yeah, no, I'm the wrong guy to ask for something short, but I can read you something to get us started.
Take a look at it for another minute. Paul, did you have something to say?
No, I was going to say, if it makes sense to wait on a resolution, we should wait. But I'm just worried that things are moving pretty quickly. It's better to get our ideas in there early. And I do agree that it should be a holistic energy management system, recovering energy from sludge, recovering energy from wastewater, as well as the geothermal. But if the committee thinks it's worth having a resolution, I brought it up. I think it'd be a great idea. So let's see what Fran says, and then we can go from there. That's my suggestion.
Anything else to insert first?
I don't think we necessarily need to make a motion. If we were to make one tonight and it affected the charrette, the process and what comes out of it, but I don't think it's like a deadline, but we have to keep pushing on it.
I would agree that we don't have to do anything right now, and if we hear this from Fran and talk about it for a minute and decide, let's put it in the oven and get it perfect. I don't think there's harm in that, especially since now we're gonna be meeting twice a month, but why not start now and see if we're on the same page together? What do you have for us?
So here's a possibility. CAC, that's us, urges the participants in planning and zoning for the MCI and adjacent sites to take any possible steps to analyze, recommend, and require the design and development of sufficient ground source wells and boreholes and thermal energy piping to make such thermal energy available for purchase by owners or tenants of each building on the sites. So that doesn't really require any particular person to do any particular thing. So we're not throwing our weight around too specifically, but it says this is something we want.
And there are just you need discussion or we need a second and third.
Well, it's not a motion yet, but we can discuss.
But there are physical things, but there's toxic waste in the soil. They don't know where it is, so they know that they don't want to plan to just dig up and put pipes anywhere. They want to make use of an existing network of tunnels that exist, although they haven't told Concord where the tunnels are yet.
And they probably are polluted as well, like asbestos.
So there might be things that prevent it. However, I like the strength of the.
So should they have some language asking the Commonwealth to clean up the site? Pay for cleaning up the site?
Yeah,
They are planning to use the proceeds from the sales to have it cleaned up. That's what's been, or like through, they're not going to be investing in the site prior to the sale, is my understanding.
Yeah.
So, but the developer will be the one who is responsible for the cleanup.
Does
And
that include demolition, or is the state responsible for demolition?
they're going to, like, they own the site, so they're responsible for it, but how they're dealing with it is selling it.
So they're gonna put
And
that.
yes, so they have to clean it up, demo, and build something to recover their costs. That's kind of the framework that DCAM is looking at this. They don't need to make a lot of money on it, but they want to meet the goals of the state, the region, and the town. And there might be some, grant funding or other funding that needs to go into it for various things. But they're not planning to do a major cleanup prior to sale.
Okay.
I don't think that we should try to get out in front of any required cleanup or abatement or anything when
Yeah.
we don't know what we're talking
There's a
about.
negotiation.
I need to comply to which.
Yeah, I just have a question, is there going to be a public comment after the charrette that we can expand with?
There's public comments all the time right now. There's a opportunity on the website. There is for direct kind of feedback. The MCI Master Planning Committee has regular public meetings. There's this week of the intensive planning, and then there's also going to be another round of public outreach meetings in the fall. But I wouldn't like wait till then, you know, if there's.
The committee carries more weight than us personally.
I
think that would do something.
I think though that the mission is not to wait for the opportunities for public comment to come to us. If we do something like this where we're urging other people to act in a way that isn't like, it isn't binding and it isn't saying one person is owning responsibility for this, we kind of have a responsibility to be enterprising and
Yeah,
in reaching out and pushing people at each level. So I think like we've got to create those conversations ourselves if we go this route.
yes, and because people, this idea has been floated already and been discussed, but for them to hear a clear message from us, that we think this should be the primary, a primary goal. Is, of value.
So looking around the table, I'm hearing and seeing general agreement.
Well, I'd like to add the sludge digestion being examined for feasibility standpoint. I mean, the farm is right over there with all the cattle, and a lot of good organic material. It's right there. I mean, and then if you add the human, I mean, you add like, food waste. We have a
So
nice,
they're talking about spreading the waste on fields there, or what do you call them?
oh, is that what they were talking about that?
Yes, they're existing, what do you call fields, the
Pasture?
drainage fields,
Yeah,
Oh,
and
the leaching,
leaching fields. I mean, there's been some mention of that, about that, the existing leaching fields. I thought they would,
right,
that, they wouldn't spread the solid waste onto the leaching,
Yeah.
that would be the liquids coming out of the
right,
treatment system.
right,
So they probably wanna keep using the existing.
that wouldn't
leaching.
affect your composting.
No.
I wouldn't want to provoke CPW at this point with composting and stuff. Unless we're ready to understand enough about what they have and will.
Well, this is a whole little mini city over there.
Oh,
It's a little city we're building over there.
And the thing about it is that would be something where we would really be looking for some kind of state grant at that point to build the thing. We wouldn't be asking necessarily Concord to pay for it. We would
no, I
be,
know, but I don't know, it's their turf.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And we wanna continue to work with them on all the issues, so I'd like to know more about what we get out of. The anaerobic digester,
It wouldn't be a lot, but it's something.
quantitatively.
Right, well, but it's the
General
might be,
cost before we said,
no, we need more biomass, I'm sure we would. Than that little development.
I wonder if there's a midpoint here where we don't necessarily say the words specifically of digestion, but we've got incorporated into this some kind of concept of processing solid
Energy
waste,
recovery, just the energy recovery.
energy recovery.
Would keep it
I
vague.
could say energy storage and recovery, I mean, energy storage is another issue.
Yeah.
Chris from the Light Plant mentioned, for instance,
Just say energy recovery, including the wastewater treatment plant, that keeps it pretty vague.
So I'm seeing around the table general agreement with this concept. We don't have a motion made yet and we don't have language perfected yet. Paul, I haven't been able to read your body language as well. Do you have thoughts on this you want to share?
I'm just listening, okay? But I'm glad we're thinking about this right now.
Is this the approximate shape of what you were thinking?
Yes.
Okay.
I
Thank-
love this. Sorry, Paul.
I was gonna say, I was gonna thank Fran for, drafting this.
Yeah, no, thank you, and I think getting in early and often is important, I just wanna make sure we're not.
like to your point, maybe more research feasibility study, but to the point of getting it early and getting it on their radar early, I think is good, and maybe this is. Could we sort of have an umbrella approach, so thinking about geothermal, energy storage and recovery, like kind of these broad strokes, so that when. So it's on their radar, and then as the research and as we learn more, we can then become a little bit more precise. Or maybe within the plan, I guess what I'm trying to think about are the opportunities for us as a committee to formally propose something. And how often we can do that, I mean, obviously the answer is probably as often as we'd like, but that's probably not, feasible practically or politically.
Well, if we do a resolution tonight. That's. This approximate. Wording. I think that empowers us without necessarily coming back in any given meeting to go in great detail. To start pushing ideas around. That would be my interpretation of what you read. If we're urging the town. And the parties involved to do these things, I think that then when we have an idea that we want to pursue. Such as a digester, such as a particular scheme for a geothermal network, then we can just go ahead and do that. We don't have to hash it out every meeting.
Right.
I think. Do you want to word what you have right now in some kind of motion form?
I move that the CAC here urge the participants of planning and zoning for the MCI and adjacent sites. To take any possible steps to prioritize, that's a new word, the analysis, recommendation, and requirement of the design and development of sufficient geothermal or ground source wells. And boreholes and thermal energy piping. To make such thermal energy available for use or purchase by owners or tenants of each building on the sites. Along with appropriate energy recovery and storage. Period.
Do I hear a second?
Is it always called thermal if it's cooling too?
Yeah,
Okay.
thermal includes cooling.
I'll second.
Well, further discussion.
We also heard the PV, but I don't want to change it.
And I thought about sticking that in there, but
If it helps at all, I wrote in my little comment card today that I wanted. PV everywhere.
Okay, and with energy recovery, energy recovery, but kind of this.
so the ending of my motion was along with appropriate energy recovery and storage.
Storage, get your batteries, but not necessarily.
Yeah, so we could say. The solar energy recovery and storage.
I like that more. Does the seconder agree to that
Yes.
amendment? Okay, right, we don't vote it then. So other thoughts before we move this along? The longest 5 minutes in history. Right, hearing no other discussion would be in line for vote. Again, we have to do it by roll call. Bob Shack.
Aye.
Fran,
Aye.
Shelley, Catherine,
Hi.
Brad, Paul.
Aye, and thank you, everybody.
I vote aye, it's unanimous. Great, so Fran, please transmit that language to Bob so that we have it perfectly in the minutes. And we'll move forward with some letters and things maybe in our next meeting. Anything else on MCI Concord? Yeah. Yeah, we got it done in less than half an hour.
I'd say the Monday, if you haven't had a chance, if you didn't go, to the Monday forum, that is online and it's worth a watch. So check that out on Minuteman Media YouTube.
And will we have for those of me who can't be there tomorrow, will tomorrow's thing be recorded as well?
Yes,
Make sure.
it should be live streamed. There were technical difficulties on Monday to live stream, but it was recorded. Hopefully tomorrow night will be both, but the Monday one, it's a great refresher if you went to the May 6th one, but it dove into the site more. And I think it'd be helpful.
Monday one had slides.
Yeah, yep.
Which didn't have the accompanying remarks, but which I thought they were quite helpful. There were a lot of cool little designs about the Route 2 rotary.
And I saw some more this morning that you'll see tomorrow night that are even cooler. Like it's really, talk about happening in real time. The feedback is coming in and things are being adjusted and it's exciting.
Next item on the agenda item number 3, New England Heat Pump Accelerator.
That would be me. So this is a grants program run that is, a regional program for speeding up heat pump adoption in homes. From, for New England state, it's a total of $450 million. That's about money, from the EPA. This probably means that some hasn't heard about this. Yes. But they're going to be giving away 20 to 40 grants, each ranging from 100,000 to 400,000, lasting 1 to 2 years. With a request for proposals that's not out yet, would be in June or July. Projects should address key barriers to heat pump access and adoption in low and moderate income households and communities. Which kind of rules out a lot of what we might want to do in this town, however, so it's a long shot.
MCI Concord is an EJ community. For now.
Really, it is, but this is for money next year.
Yeah, okay.
You know, so that's a possibility. It's, Concord's a long shot with this kind of a program. But we could consider using a portion of it for funding, a geothermal network involving public housing. Part of what, Fran was talking about, near, the Alcott School, you could imagine. Applying for that as a piece of it. I happen to know the person running the program. Named Kruja Bora. And I've talked to her about it. It's a long shot. We could, consider using it. Along with, and we can't, there's nothing to do now, because the RFP is out. I just want to remind us that we also have other collaborative work that we can be doing for geothermal networks, involving, 2 things, the Multi-Town Gas Leaks Initiative, which has been meeting regularly. And this is the last Multi-Town Gas Leaks Initiative, is 29 towns working together with MAPC. And, I'm in the middle of watching a video of them recently, but they're talking about, you know, how do we do this in our town? So it involves aspects of regulatory and zoning and stuff. There's a lot to learn. MAPC is there to help or facilitate. And then there's the grants that we already got part of technical assistance with MAPC for life plant, working with other life plant communities like Wellesley and Marblehead. Which will take place as soon as people have the time. We want to, you know, maybe after we're done with this climate action planning, we can convene that and work with those other towns, because the business aspects, I mean, thinking about how does it work at MCI, well, that's relatively simple if you said that national grid is not already there, but for other networks, there's issues to figure out. And then there's one other grant program that I want to, that I put in the in our parking lot as things we could do, which is, the Energy Saver Home Loan Program, which can provide financing with interest rates as low as 0.5%, for energy projects, for home incomes below 122,000, 80% of median income in Middlesex County. And it has to say, these projects have to save 20% of energy, which is easy to do with a heat pump and solar project. And so I want to work with the affordable housing community to see, you know, whether we can target some of those properties. It's not about geothermal so much as electrifying homes. But it's along the same lines as what the, New England heat pump accelerator is, but it's totally accessible for us. We just, if there are some buildings to do, some home buildings to do and homeowners qualify, we can just apply it and help them, undertake those.
So for these various programs, I'm thinking particularly about the heat pump accelerator, but for any of them. Is a municipal housing authority an eligible applicant?
Yeah. Pretty sure.
So maybe we should talk, if we wanna do this, maybe the thing to do is to talk to the housing authority and see if they have things that they wanna accomplish.
I've talked to them informally, and I sent an email today, to a couple of people to say, let's sit down and see if there's anything there. And, you know, in terms of all those buildings, what are they? Cause I think it would be cool if we found there were like 30 homes that could do this, and we could make that a project.
There was just a wave of air source heat pumps that happened, within the last year. And I felt bad because they didn't really get big credit for having done that. And if we can do this as a next step with some other housing units, I think that would be a great thing.
Yeah,
We can kind of spread some kudos to the housing authority too for the work that they're doing.
they're, on the right side of things.
I have a little aside on the heat pump history and story, as we have just gone through it. I know Catherine has the same experience, the tortuous path to get a heat pump installed like this. And I've been taking surveys whenever I see an HVAC truck in the neighborhood, ask them what are they doing? They almost unanimously say they are opposed to heat pumps. Every one of these guys, they say they can't repair them, they're not recommending them to any of their customers. So there's a problem with those vendors. I know that's really never where our discussion is. But somebody needs to talk to that organization and either get them on the same page, because they're diverting a lot of conversions. I know they are, because I see them on the street and I ask them, what are they doing? Oh, they're putting in air conditioning and new gas furnace.
These are HVAC contractor vans.
Exactly.
A bunch of them, not any one in particular.
Not anyone in particular. Because I walk my dog, I see it, and I ask them. So be that as it may, I think it's something that maybe one of our organizations needs to talk to their manufacturing association.
Heat Smart Alliance should be doing that.
Yes, and then it reminds me of, I think it's the sustainability folks of Native. Maybe it was me, anyway, some of these towns, and it may be an analogous community like ours or some other, that put together a spreadsheet of all the HVAC installers. And
They have one, CMLD has one.
well, they have one, but they have the heat pump coaches and they have a list,
Yeah,
but
that's
it's
complete.
just the list, it doesn't, or maybe some phone numbers.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have a spreadsheet that shows, anyway, I can share it, I think,
Yeah.
but it's a template that has lots of data points about it, like years in experience, how many heat pumps they've installed. Kind of all these things to sort of understand where they are in the marketplace, and then it just also helps, like you said. It helps move the conversion rate forward so that you don't have these kind of old guard, I would call them HVAC folks. Kind of saying, no, we're against this, and it is out of scope of this
It
conversation.
is, but I just wanted to get up to somebody.
But-
I know it's a barrier to entry.
Right, but I guess my
They're-
point in bringing that up is that CMLP is not gonna lead that work, they do have heat pump coaches, but there's only so much they can say, right? They're sort of employees of CMLP, and they can provide a list, but it stops there, right? And so this committee or some other entity could sort of be that bridge. Maybe it's part of line, I don't know, but,
Yeah, so we are bound by the same rules that CMLP is bound by.
right, because we're a perfect body,
Whereas, and the Heat Smart Alliance, which has a meeting Friday, we have the detail about it, it's gonna be an interesting by, the sustainability director of Native.
That's
On project one. They could, but they don't, because they are careful to avoid, recommending contractors as well.
But is there a trade organization for the heat pump people? I mean, it's just, there must be, that's the one, so we should write a letter, or I would write a letter to them. Or invite them or say, hey, see a problem here.
Well, I'd like to see this resource because I haven't seen it. If you could send it to, everybody on the committee, let's take a look at it and see if there is some kind of constructive suggestion to make to CMLP about updating our resource that we do offer. Maybe there is, maybe there are components or ideas embedded in that we can use to improve what we are able to offer. I do want to redirect back to the substance on the agenda though.
Sorry, I didn't, but
There you go.
Just one second.
Sure.
I think there's a reason for those people feeling that way. And I think all of us either have experienced some of that ourselves with our air source heat pumps or know people who have. And so I think we ought to address that as a legitimate issue and think about whether ground source heat pumps would work better, whether we should be incorporating some of this sort of problem definition about air source heat pumps into what I've been arguing for in terms of prioritizing ground source.
It would be a great sub-action in a 5-year climate action plan.
Yeah.
Back to your thing, please. What should we do? What are you proposing that we attempt to do?
No, I am proposing that we talk to the affordable housing people about that opportunity. Cause I think that's fruit for the picking. I do think we should continue, connecting with MAPC on the help that they can give us. When the RFP comes out, we should look at it.
And when is that gonna be
June
approximately?
or July, we should probably need July. We should look at it and figure out how much work it is to apply for. What we should apply for on, if we were to. It's not gonna come out with a deadline of July, it's gonna come out with a deadline of August or later. We should keep our eyes open for that. The other things we wanna keep our eyes open to and.
And is that something that you think you'd have the bandwidth to take the initiative on?
Yeah,
Great, let's do it.
but my comment about Trump not having heard about it means this program could disappear without a trace. Because a very similar program having to do with solar for all. After the awards were given, disappeared. Because they, involved low income
Heat
people.
pumps are not the same kind of divisive issue for whatever reason as solar. Take advantage of it.
All right, are we ready to move on and hear our deputy town manager's report?
Yeah.
All right, Megan, take it away.
Okay, thank you. It turns to me, so people at home can see me. I'm a little close. So there's a written report in your packet. I'm continuing to evolve the template. I'd say as you're perusing them or reading them before the meeting, the background is kind of staying the same, but look for the current status or next steps to see what work we've been doing in the last, couple weeks here. So to start with the MVP 2.0 program, I think I mentioned at the last meeting that we did procure Weston and Sampson to work on that. So my update here is we're expecting to have that contract signed by the end of the week. It's been signed by the vendor and I think it's back in the town's hands. This is a really prescriptive process for what we need to do. And so this is just to remind the folks listening at home and in the room, this is a fully grant funded project and they have a list of things that we need to accomplish. So the first part is a $50,000 award, which we already have in the bank here to hire a planning vendor And we will be meeting with our assigned equity partner next week to look at our community data and, start to understand who lives and works in this community, who would be most impacted by climate change, so that we can get our community liaisons. And if you recall that in this model for this program, that will be a paid stipend position. So we have our municipal team, and we are looking to, get the rest of our liaison team members. So we should have a better update for you, I think, at our next meeting, on that progress. Yeah,
Now, this is another grant.
yeah.
Western Extension. Is there any interaction between this and the climate action plan that they are currently working on, in the sense of some of what you're talk about almost sounds like a chapter, almost sounds like
Yeah.
a better chapter of the climate action.
Yeah, I mean, I think they came in with the lowest quote, which was, so we're happy to work with them on this. And yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of benefits to the synergy between the two projects. I think the timeline of this isn't quite lining up as I'd prefer. I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing, but the phasing for kind of our resilience priorities is over the next several months. And we are kind of winding down our idea phase for the climate action resilience plan. But there will be some similar threads in the teams working on this. There is a added benefit to understanding Concord, and I'm starting to kind of, come out here and meet with folks. And this is really a deeper dive to hear from, to really have a funded way to meet with people that could be impacted by climate change that might not make it to our meetings or our virtual calls. It's like a really kind of proactive approach. But yeah, there's definitely a benefit to having the same firm. And if it's a chapter or not, I think our climate action plan will be completed before this is done. But this is looking for resilience priorities, and we can't go in with that, we're going to find what they are. We can't go in with like, here's our short list. We have to kind of be a curious approach, but I would imagine some of the things would be the same, since we're asking the same people, so hopefully those will work together nicely.
Still be volunteering for that, or was that?
Yeah, we certainly will. I think Bob has been kind of our appointed person on that, but there will be a number officially on our team. But there will be a number of community meetings that we'll need help for. We'll be digging into this in the next month, really, with this kickoff meeting next week. And we also have an intern that is going to be starting, I think, next week. And she's a student, undergrad student at UVM. She's a resident, and is this you? Oh my gosh, I'm just putting that together. Lucy! I'm like, wait a second. That just occurred to me as I'm speaking.
Welcome. Thank you.
So Shannon interviewed Lucy, and Shannon's virtual. She would have put this together. So Lucy will be reporting to Shannon and working on this project, so you can learn about it, and others. So, yeah.
The degree to which the new stormwater tax that we all pay, are they involved in this program? Whoever is managing whatever's happening with all that money and what projects are gonna be proposed, what degree are they tied to the resilience, forward-looking, proactive work?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. We do have public works staff participating in this team.
Okay, good.
But I mean, public works is large too, right? So it's like the trash, solid waste component, there's like the water component, and then there's the engineering. So I can't like pull them all into every meeting, but I think you raise a good point that should be closely aligned as we're looking through this.
Who are the DPW staff?
For the water, who are participating? We have Justine, correct me if I'm wrong, Shannon. I think we went through a few different iterations, but I think we had Justine.
For MVP 2.0, we were gonna have it, the main person be Melissa.
Oh,
Demasini.
Melissa from water.
So it's water and sewer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I had the same thought. I know that there's been rumblings around the community, right? There's $27 million, is that right? That's going into
Strong.
I don't know the number.
It's a big chunk of change and
Think
we're
that-
all of a sudden seeing new bills every month.
Mhm.
As community, and we're all very happy about it, right? Because we're like, oh, that drain's now gonna get fixed. But, you know, and again, it takes time, but up until now, there hasn't been a lot of transparency around prioritization or what's gonna be done with that money or what's, you know, and so how it ties into resilience and vulnerability is a really key point. And I think, you know, this committee at least, but I would say the community at large needs to have a little more sunshine on what that fund is and what it's being used for.
I think that we can nail down what the number is, but I believe the 27 million number is the road funding, not the stormwater funding.
okay.
But we should know what that
We should
number
know
is
what that
too.
is, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm happy to follow up on that because you know, this was an action identified in the last climate action plan to do this. And it's a critical way to fund this resilience work. And I don't know, you know, I haven't been as involved in kind of the short list of first projects, but I think that would be helpful for people to know. There's also a podcast on it if people want to listen to that on Civic Concord, where I interview our engineer who is the kind of point person. So
That's good too.
the background, why we're doing it, why it was part, you know, kind of a heavy lift of the climate action plan and what the purpose is and how it helps us meet our kind of resilience goals. So that's that one. Then, of course, we continue on our Suasco Climate Collaborative. There's a lot of work being done right now for end of year reporting for the grant. This is something else Lucy's going to help with when she gets on board. This is a 2-year grant project. And as the lead community, we have a lot of responsibilities. So I will be kind of closing my door a little bit this month and walking in on making sure we get all of our reimbursements for all the important work that MAPC and ORS and town staff have been doing for this project. We have our next community meeting in Ashland on June 25th at the public library.
What time?
I think it's at 6:30. Shannon, is that right?
You know, it's in the events.
Yeah, it's in your 6:30.
6:30
Yep.
to 8
Yep.
in the large meeting room, the name of which I will not try to pronounce.
There'd be a virtual option, you know, or should it just?
This one is not a virtual, like the one we had in Concord, it's heavily built around the table facilitation. And you know, we are having some other virtual components of this work, but that one is a real kind of community building in-person style. We also released our request for proposals, which is a major undertaking. And that is for firms to do our vulnerability assessment for the region and the watershed. That's a big chunk of our budget for this work, for this MVP grant. And we are expecting proposals in the first week of July. And then we will have an evaluation process and hope to have someone on board, you know, soon into the fiscal year.
So we've asked in previous meetings for members, this committee to go to Ashland that night. Is anybody other than me able to commit that you can definitely be there?
No.
I'm going, this Paul,
You are, great.
yes.
So 2 of us will definitely be there, plus Lucy. And I
I
assume,
Was that the RFP, was it the vulnerability assessment for the watershed? Is that what you said? Okay.
I assume Megan and Shannon, you'll be there too.
Yeah.
It would be nice to have more volunteer coverage though, there.
Yeah, I mean, volunteer coverage, I think as a lead community for Concord, like, I'm not gonna put you to work kind of putting out cookies and stuff, but you know, we had people from all over the watershed that came to Concord. And I think having people from different municipalities makes it a more valuable conversation. So we're definitely trying to get the word out and have as good of attendance there as we did here, because we had a really great meeting. It's gonna be tough, June 25th, you know, it's a hard time of year, but.
So if we can't necessarily have anybody else from the committee there, is there anything that we should be doing to try to grab a couple extra volunteers to come down?
I'd say volunteers, you know, just because just participants, right? Like, I mean, I think as we did for the climate action resilience plan, like bring your neighbors, like this is not in town, so it might be a little harder, but if people are interested in this work and your circles and, folks, this is a really big way to help with the natural environment and resilience and, a lot of our goals. So it's a good way to learn about what's going on. It's a good way to talk to neighbors that are interested in this, across the watershed who we're trying to really build relationships here because this grant is 2 years, but we want this collaborative to live on, right? Like no one's making us do this. This came from a letter. I think I remember my first climate action committee meeting. We were over at Kai's Road, and there was a letter that Paul was working on, I think, or Jerry, and it was like, we need to do something more regionally. Like, how are we focusing on, these efforts? And this was already in the works, and then we got it. So now we're here. And so we want this to live on. And I think staff can take it so far, but I think that community member to community member and seeing the value in this work when the grant runs out, that matters. So that's a long answer, but yes, we'd love people to come.
I know it's hard because most of the next month or most of the next 2 weeks on this project are gonna be just getting ready for Ashland Public Library, but our next meeting is gonna be after that event. Are you able to signpost right now, kind of like what's the next action item or action step that we may need to have our eyes on after the library event?
I'd say on the project management team side, it's going to be a little bit administrative for the summer with selecting a consultant, contracting, and then doing a kickoff with them. Shannon, do you have anything else to add about how the committee can be involved post June 25th for like the short term? I think we will have a fall meeting. Oh, I can't hear you, Shannon.
Uh-oh.
Sorry, I'm also connected to my phone, so I had to unmute on my phone. I was just going to add that we'll have third and fourth community meetings, but that won't start until the fall.
Okay, running through my list, there's a good conversation about the MCI planning charrette, but another pitch for tomorrow evening. I think you're gonna be wowed. So I think it's a good one to go to. Or live stream it if you can't make it or watch a recording. I'm gonna pause on the CARP update for Shannon, but I'm gonna go through a couple other things. The leaf blower ban, I have it on here. It was not this committee's citizens petition, but it was, it wasn't your bylaw, but I think it's of interest to the group. But this citizens petition, now it was adopted in 2023. Effective 2024, that was the educational year. So last year was kind of the first real year of enforcement. And there is a change in enforcement this year. And after last season's review with the police department, with town council, we looked at how we were doing it. And at the time we were ticketing landscapers. And there was a lot of challenges to that because there are franchises. It's like, how do you get people's names when you have to it's a complicated, it's kind of complicated to ticket the folks that are there at the moment. And when we looked at it, it's like, we really can be citing the homeowner because they're procuring the work on their property. And that seems more appropriate. It's a lot easier for the police to track. It's more efficient. It's more in line with how they do their citation systems. So that is an adjustment that, the way it was written, that interpretation it doesn't say one way or the other. So we're confident that we can do that. And we have been getting a lot of complaints about it, I will say. Some from neighbors, on folks having landscaping companies, at their neighbors' houses that are, because it's the way it's written right now. I mean, there's different phases, but right now, if you have a residential property that's under 1.5 acres, you can only have gas powered leaf blowers happening in your yard during the seasonal windows, and the seasonal window has now closed. So if you're on a lot under 1.5 acres, you can't have any gas leaf blower happening. So we're still working on education about that. That is ongoing.
If we had, like a little handout.
I do. I have them on the website and people, so we have two versions of it. We have one that's a black and white that you can cut and like, you could put them in people's mailboxes. I mean,
A little flow chart.
oh, I do have a flow chart. Is that on the website?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a new flow chart that we have, but we also have a PDF that's just like a reminder to people. So like if your neighbor was doing it, I mean, is it a little passive aggressive? I mean, is it educational? It's like,
It's also not actually legal to put something in the mailbox if it's
Well-
not mail.
okay, I guess you could mail it.
Put it in their storm door.
Landscaper that I see the landscaping trucks and I see they got the leaf blower out, and I'm not gonna wait around for them to fire it up. But if I have something, I can pull it out of my wallet and say, here's a little information you're not supposed to be using.
Yeah, that is available on the website for download on the leaf blower page.
But I thought we're going after the homeowner now versus the landscaper.
So if the landscaper's gonna be, firing up their leaf blowers, they're the ones that are.
It's about educating everybody
Yeah.
Okay.
too. You know, yeah, the homeowner might have a culpability there, but it's not necessarily reasonable to expect that they are going to be expert on their landscaping company's equipment.
But who gets the citation? I heard the landscapers were getting it now.
It's the property owner.
So now
Yep.
we're going after property, it's okay.
I mean, going after is not the word I would use. The community voted this bylaw, and we are enforcing it through a citation to the, homeowner. Okay, and, the last thing I want to mention is decarbonization roadmap. I'm kind of sick of saying this term, but hopefully we'll be close to the end here. So as a little backup, we got a technical assistance grant through, Green Communities to do this decarbonization roadmap, which is a high level planning document on how to reduce carbon emissions at our highest emission producing buildings in town and municipal buildings in town. And the reason we're doing that, because it's good planning, but it's also the last piece of the puzzle that we need to become a climate leader through the state. And we've done all the other things. In fact, we were the first community to do our kind of EV plan. We've done our specialized stretch code. We've done all these other things. And this is having one of these adopted by our community is the last piece. And if we have it in by the end of June, then we can apply. There's a couple deadlines for applying for climate leaders, and one of them is June 30th. So I'm trying to, we got this done. I collected feedback from this group and from staff. We had a new version that I sent out. I do have, we have to have this adopted by the schools and the select board. So I have meetings scheduled for June 16th with the school committee. That's not their usual night. It's a special meeting they're having this month, and it's going to be virtual. They're not just having it for me, but I did get a chance to get on there, which is wonderful. I appreciate them considering this agenda topic. And then I said the select board on June 22nd. So I am spending part of my time tomorrow working on my presentation because it needs a little work. But I'm going to talk about the Climate Leaders Program. I'm going to talk about the decarbonization roadmap. And then the next question is going to be, well, how are we going to pay for this, right? Like, okay, there's all these goals and we want to decarbonize, but what's the plan there? And one of my answers is if we become a climate leader, we get eligibility for some grants that we don't right now for municipal decarbonization projects. But the other one is we're still looking at this ESCO model through Power Options. And ideally, we would be partnering with the schools to enter into an agreement together so that we can, work all together on capital planning, financial planning, how to reduce carbon emissions and really invest in the buildings that we have. Because on our decarbonization roadmap, most of the buildings were schools that were listed as our highest emissions. The other municipal building was the BD Center. So, we have these schools, we hope to have them for a while longer. And so how can we smartly invest in a strategic way with a technical partner who really knows the stuff backwards and forwards. And so this isn't the first time I've talked about it. I've talked about it here. I've talked about it with school administration. We're bringing our finance director into the conversation as well. But this will be the first time I'm talking about it publicly with the school committee and the select board. So, you know, I think over a year ago, we talked about the ESCO model, and Jerry, who's on the phone, was really kind of a leader on the committee at the time of saying, yes, we want energy savings and cost savings, but we want decarbonization. So we were trying to switch around our ESCO model to really meet our unique goals. At the same time, Power Options was creating this new product, which is, I forget the acronym, but it's like building decarbonization as a service, I think is what it's called. And that really is exactly what we were trying to create on our own. And so it really seems like it's going to be the right fit. We need to align our contracts with the schools and make sure we can kind of join at the same time. And so there's details to be worked out there, but that is a path that seems like could help us achieve our sustainable goals, which is looking at the financial modeling and, you know, the emissions, and having the technical expert, which is the human in my, you know, little triangle that I always talk about. So
It would probably be a good idea for someone from the Climate Action Committee to be at these two meetings, just to show that we support this, not needing necessarily to get into any kind of fancy speechifying or anything, but just to say, we've looked at this, we marked it up, we like it. You should like it too, please adopt it. So could anybody be there for the school committee virtual meeting on the 16th? Great.
What times?
that one's at 6, I believe.
And then the select board on the 22nd.
Where you are, Virginia. You know where you are, maybe.
I don't. I can get you that tomorrow, Shelley. I don't know if that's been posted yet.
Can anybody be there on the 22nd?
It's
It's a Monday?
Yeah.
What time?
The meeting's at 6,
I might, right?
but I think it's towards the end of the agenda.
Well,
But it could be online, you
that's
know.
actually better for me if it's later.
Curious, and
Yeah, I'm gonna do that in a second. Thank you.
What?
The select board in the or.
The select board's on the 22nd.
Jerry
Yep.
had to say it.
Yeah, I'll do that in just a moment. Jerry, go ahead.
Okay, thanks, folks. And first of all, Megan, thanks for pushing this through. Yeah, it's been cooking for a while, but I'm pleased to see that, you know, we have a report and we have a roadmap. I'm also pleased to see that you'll be meeting with the school committee and the select board, especially the school committee. As you pointed out, most of the buildings that were identified as being sort of high consumers are school buildings. So my question here is really about next steps. What I've been thinking about and why I've been sort of hot on this ESCO model and the decarbonization roadmap for some time is because it tells us what we need to do and when, and what are the opportunities there. And that's of great value for us. It's of great value if we take advantage of it. So, you know, what I would like to see jumping ahead here is I'd like to see the school committee finance director or whoever's going to produce their budget take advantage of this roadmap information and work into their budgets the replacements for the functions that Power Options have identified. We know that we will face end-of-life issues with heating systems and such in all of these buildings. So we know that we're going to have to replace these boilers, these heat pumps, etc. We also know, thanks to Power Options, when this will happen. So the school committee, town as well, Finance Committee, as they plan their budgets, they're going to be planning to spend money on new heating systems. What we want them to do is to spend that money on energy efficient heating systems, and they can plan for that now. And if they plan for that now, it's less painful as it comes down the road. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think that's the whole thing. And I'm gonna watch that back and incorporate that into my presentation.
Great.
So, well
So
said,
my-
Terry.
My kind of pointed question here is, in these meetings, first with the school committee and then with the select board, what will the ask be?
The ask is going to be to adopt the decarbonization roadmap. So I am thinking of this as an iterative process with this component. If we get this adopted, then we'll become a climate leader, which will unlock some grants while we are working behind the scenes, not behind the scenes, but like on the administration side of when our natural gas contract is up. Because if you recall, Power Options is a natural gas supplier, and this ESCO is an add-on for members. So we want to line up the schools end of their natural gas contract and the towns, so we can, work to join together. And then once we are members of this decarbonization as a service, the first step after that will be the investment grade audits of the buildings, and that's a real deep dive. So you really fully understand what you're working with, which is really a significant level of detail, especially compared to this roadmap, and from there, you work to figure out your priorities and plan across your portfolio. I understand it. It's really not like one building at a time. You need to find savings, in these different buildings, but you can't fund it all through savings. There is an investment, but, and I think there's more discussion to be had there. But I think, as you point out, Jerry, it's like, if you're going to invest in these buildings, either way, it's like, let's make smart investments to, achieve our decarbonization goals.
So that's great. Let me now voice one concern I have, and that is, so it would be great to be acknowledged as a climate leader and to participate in that program. But I don't want that to be a hollow participation. I can imagine the schools saying, well, gosh, we don't have it in the budget. We know that we've got this climate roadmap, but it doesn't fit into our budget. Somehow we've got to work through that. We need to get them on board so that they're an active participant in this, and not merely saying, oh yeah, we're a climate leader. We need to put some meat on the bones of that at the school committee level. And
don't you think, Jerry, though, that part of that starts with having these conversations, and then obviously we'll need to follow through on them with relationship building work. But like this has got to be the first step of trying to achieve that set of change attitudes.
Yeah, I didn't mean to imply that we should go to the mat, in this meeting next week. But yes, well said, Brad. We need to build some relationships. We need to work this as a long-term process. I guess I wanted to put my cards on the table face up right away. And just briefly, I'll try and make the 6/16 meeting with the school committee as well.
Great.
So that's all I got. Thank you for the floor.
Of course.
Yeah, you might want to make any guidance about how much time you want to spend on this, because I have a couple of points I wanted to make.
Yeah, I want to be done already with this, so quickly, please.
Well, I'll try to be quick, but I do think I sort of second and third what Jerry just said. Also, I wanted to point out that the adopting it, some of the language in the current document, I believe I'm looking at the final document, says, for instance, for the idea of an energy district in Concord Center, it says the town is encouraged to commission a feasibility study. Then it says there's a bunch of sort of early projects in the, maybe by 2030 sort of timeframe. And then they say there's a second phase that'll skid way past 2030 into 2032, 2034. And they say the town may need to evaluate whether electrification of these facilities can be accelerated. And acceleration options with associated capital costs need to be included in the next roadmap update. So I didn't know there was gonna be a roadmap update. but-
Every 3 years, we have to do it. Every 3 years.
3 years, okay.
Yeah.
27, 28, 29. The federal tax credits for ground source heating runs out 2032. At the end of the year, it begins to, then it phases down quickly for over a couple of years or something. So it's possible that it's a significant, like, what is 25% or something. The language in here about acceleration, I propose that we pick up on that. And that we have, have as our policy that acceleration is important to analyze like right away. And we don't know what the outcome of that is, but we ought to be encouraged, we ought to be looking for that, we ought to be asking for the study of that to be. Right where they say the town may need to evaluate, like right away, we should evaluate right away, whether we can speed some of those things up.
Where are you on?
Page 29. Plus or minus, there are several projects in 2032, which include CCHS and Thoreau. So 2032. Those might,
Right, yeah.
so that means planning like yesterday, starting planning yesterday to get something done that fast, especially if it's ground source. And if you're gonna talk about, trying to connect them, Alcott, it says 2034. So if we could get Alcott to be done a couple of years early, there's a lot of efficiencies. I presume we're doing it at the same time as, I know these are all different, completely different organizations, right? It's not just all one department. Ripley, they said 2035. I don't know whether that's Ripley's gonna, or what the status of that is, but I guess I'm recommending that we volunteer to help and sort of jump on these sort of helping to get these studies scheduled and funded if necessary, and so that this thing isn't like a static roadmap. It's a basis for us to advocate for accelerating. And there's even language in there about acceleration, so I like that.
I like that too.
Any other discussion on the deputy town manager's report?
I think, just sorry, one more thing I wanted to mention is that Dean and I are working on the solar rooftop policy. So Dean has a draft that he sent to me, and I incorporated some staff comments, and I think it's in my court now to reply back to him. So I just wanted to let the committee know that, that was a town meeting vote to and this committee's vote to further that, and so that language is being finalized, and I'll keep you posted about when it goes to the select board, so you might be interested in that.
Great, good work.
Well, thanks to Dean for kind of getting it to where it is, so.
Are we required to, if we're gonna have Fran and potentially me at these two meetings? Do we need to memorialize the two of us to speak on behalf of the committee formally, or can we kind of do that by consensus?
I don't know if I'm planning on doing a presentation, so.
And like during public comment.
Oh, okay.
If somebody's got a question, something like that.
I think, usually when people say I'm speaking on behalf of myself, so if you wanna speak on behalf of the committee, I think it's probably nice to have a vote that, you already talked about the kinds of things you would say, so yeah.
And then public comment period on before the rest of the agenda, so you might be speaking before.
Why don't we, just as a precaution, hear a motion to memorialize Fran and I to speak at these respective meetings?
Make a motion of the BDI representatives. Right, go for it.
Discussion? Hearing none, we'd be in line for vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. Bob,
Aye.
you're not Bob.
Aye.
Joe, Catherine, Brad, Paul.
Aye.
There vote yes, aye, it's unanimous. Great. So, we are past, the time that we were going to adjourn this meeting by, and we still have on the agenda 40 minutes of talking about the climate action and resilience plan. So I would suggest to the group that, this is why we have now, starting with June 29th, a second monthly meeting. Rather than try to slog through the entire agenda, we could push it. I think it would be beneficial to talk about a couple of things about the climate action plan, but not to go for the full budgeted time and push ourselves past 9 o'clock. So I would suggest, if there's no objection, that we effect a time contract that will be done with this meeting at 8:45. And we'll continue on climate action and resilience plan. We'll leave time in case there's anybody for public comment, and we'll be seeking to adjourn at 8:45. Does anybody object to that? Hearing no objection, that'll be our plan. Climate action and resilience plan. Shannon, do you want to start, and we'll just debrief the community workshop events and talk about our feelings about those?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, if the committee could get through tonight, is talking a little bit about a plan for the advocacy groups interview. That would be great, just because we're trying to have those stakeholder interviews done by June, by the end of June. So if you could touch on that tonight, that would be great. But otherwise, we're just plugging ahead with the last 3 groups that Weston and Sampson said that they were going to conduct with their stakeholder interviews, which are the private school groups, planning and zoning, and the Ag Committee and Natural Resources kind of hybrid group. So those are all going to be scheduled for this month. And then otherwise, just looking ahead, Weston and Sampson was planning to come to the June meeting with a draft list of actions, but just with the community workshops having just wrapped up and still conducting the stakeholder interviews, we thought it would be more valuable to push that to July to have a more comprehensive list of actions to review for a draft in July, and also to think about how the group can prioritize those actions, because there are a lot of ideas that we've come up with, but not every single one of them is going to make it into the plan.
Are Weston and Sampson fixing to do some kind of debrief for us on the feedback from the community workshops and the stakeholder interviews, specifically leading into those actions, or is it just kind of they're going to come and talk about the actions?
I would say it's going to be a mix of both. We haven't talked about how they're going to debrief those, but I don't imagine that they wouldn't be touching on them at all.
Does anybody have anything on the mind about the community workshops or stakeholder interviews that you've done that you want to kind of express? Go ahead.
Generally, I participated in 2 or 3 of the business interviews. And I thought the business community was like as sustainable as anybody. I mean, I was asking these sort of careful questions, expecting this, you people are spending all they were like, this, everybody's on board. At 300 Baker Street, we were talking with the hired consultant, the energy consultant. And he went through the history of trying to get the solar that they're trying to get on that building. And I think I can understand a lot of what happened. I mean, we had problems with too much solar in town. We had to think about batteries. But at the present moment, he's still trying to get solar, and the light plant is telling him he can't do it if he's using a power purchase agreement or a lease. One of their, I can't remember exactly. But it's something about they have some technical limits on willingness to deal with end use customers who are leasing their solar or using power contracts. And I said, well, I for one think that ought to be a solvable problem. And if you're trying to put solar on the building, and the light plan is just trying to be responsive, there's got to be a way. And it just sounds to me like we need some facilitation here, somebody needs to help break that logjam, and there's just a lot of solar involved here.
We need to have a meeting with Jason. We need to meet with Jason Bulger about it.
Then you can take a purchase agreement with CMS, I don't know.
And somebody, and Warren.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Let's see if we get a meeting with Jason and Warren.
Yeah, well, I think it would be good to follow it up because it was like a cry from the stakeholders, other than all this positive feedback. Like, we're just trying to do solar.
Well, it was a talking point in the current plan, you know, that
Yeah.
we would be trying to cultivate relationships in the business community and find the appropriate incentives to green our businesses in town. That has never truly been a priority.
Well, I recommend that it be.
So we'll need to appropriately sustain that language from the current iteration of the plan into our next one and think more carefully about how can we make it work? How can we do something that, you know, remembering our brainstorming session is practical, achievable, and you know, it's not just about solving the one root, although it would be really nice to solve that because that would probably produce a lot of energy. It's about figuring out a systematic approach to industry in town.
I'm curious who was at the, or how, to your point about are we getting a debrief, I'm just wondering, was like the economic vitality manager from the town there, like.
No, it was me and, what's her name? The-
Cassidy.
Cassidy.
But our economic vitality manager helped cultivate the group and make the
Yeah.
introduction,
Yeah.
Okay.
set it up.
Because I just remember reading, way before my time on the committee, that maybe in the last plan or the last sustainability director before Eric even, there was a whole kind of research, and maybe an intern that looked at, like businesses having sustainability certification. So like you could put on your, you know, outside your shop, like I'm.
Yeah, the high school doing that, and they
Oh, maybe.
interviewing on Thoreau Street.
Oh, maybe, it was
Really
way
cool.
before my time even living here, I think, but I'm just thinking. To the point of, this is not new, right? And this is something that I think would very much demonstrate our goals as a committee, but also the town's goals and values. To have it be, again, solar on 300 acres, really important, but to the idea of. Drawing businesses into this and pushing forward sustainability goals, and whether it's certification or something else, then we have criteria. Or something else, but that it's more systematic and it's across businesses and covered.
I know that Dean has his hand up, but before he speaks, I wanted to mention, I've been doing some, I've been looking at what targets we should set on solar for, municipal, commercial, residential, and I haven't had a chance to talk to him and Charlie about it. We're gonna do that before our next CAC meeting, so I'd like to talk about it then. But at a brief level, because there's been someone making comments that we should be able to produce all our energy from solar. I'd estimate that if we really put our minds to it, the most we could do is about 11 or 12% of our demand. And is probably at the level of a good target. And I'm also gonna propose that when someone makes a comment that Concord should generate all of its energy from solar, the Climate Action Committee should speak to that, because that's the kind of noise that's quite destructive.
The only comment I would add on that is that it's hard for us to predict efficiencies of solar panel improvements. I mean, we may be able to.
No, it's not. It's easy.
We may have breakthroughs though, we don't know.
They can't, they're not.
I know it's not a very dense source of physics, but I just think that I don't want to rule it out.
This is straying from what's on the agenda, and we've got 5 minutes before I'm gonna gavel out. So Dean, go.
Just briefly, I just want to comment on the 300 Baker Avenue thing and PPAs. PPAs within a municipal light plant territory are just not a thing. There's no mechanism whereby the light plant can allow an alternative energy delivery company to operate within their territory. So that's really how a PPA works. You put them on your roof, and you literally buy the electricity from the person who's put them on your roof, and that's just not a thing. So unfortunately, that really doesn't work. But the problems with 300 Baker Avenue go way back, and they're much more complicated than just, well, I would like a PPA and I can't get one. They go back to an era when the light plant was actively discouraging new large scale solar because of the solar problems that happen when we get solar peaking. So the new administration with Jason running the show is really looking to see to find ways that we can encourage it. So that may involve having an arrangement whereby the light plant at certain points has to ask and have the right to curtail the energy flowing off a particular roof or whatever. But I think Jason is open to various arrangements that could be made for an interconnect agreement. So I know that 300 Baker Avenue has been a very long saga of not getting anything done. But I think that we can, and I'll try to do what I can to talk to Jason about it. I'm also the liaison at the light board, so I'll work with you on that. Okay, thanks. That's my only comment on that.
Thank you, Janet.
Just back on the advocacy groups stakeholder interview, I wanted to maybe suggest if you all wanted to memorialize a committee member to lead the charge on scheduling that. I don't think that you can have more than one of you lead the charge on scheduling without it becoming a subcommittee. When you task more than one person to do something, it becomes a subcommittee. But maybe if someone wanted to volunteer to work on the scheduling, and then other committee members could sit in like you have on other interviews, or if you wanted to just post it as an open meeting, you also could. But I didn't think that that's necessarily what you wanted to do.
Yeah, that wasn't our intention. So would anybody have the bandwidth to own responsibility for getting the advocacy group stakeholder interview arranged?
Yes, is he supposed to do that?
No, we took this one on.
Okay,
We added the private schools.
I know that,
Yeah.
but I thought Cassidy was still involved.
We only had bandwidth for so many. and
Okay,
we're still-
I remember the
Yeah.
conversation. Volunteers.
Yeah, I'm just going out of town, I would if I wasn't, but I'm out of the country.
All right.
So I'll volunteer.
Okay, that would be great. And then
So I'll work with Shannon on that. Shannon, you're involved with that stuff? Okay.
Yeah, I think I have the list of groups that the Climate Action Committee previously reviewed as being in the advocacy group category, so I can share those with you.
Thank you.
So I think I think that we don't necessarily need to have any kind of vote to memorialize you to do that if we're all nodding our heads, yes, this is the way to go. Yeah, great.
Just to follow up on the solar stuff with CMS, I'm just looking at my notes, because they did the DreamWorks grant, they're gonna discuss a power purchase agreement for the CMS solar at the June 18th meeting, like work.
Noted, right, let's give everybody some homework and then we'll open it up if there's any public comment. So we have a tendency on this committee to have a new idea that we want to bring forward. And it's usually in service of a goal of greening our community, making it more resilient or moving forward on energy in some way. But every time we come forward with a new idea, I feel that it is also taking a step away from an established plan. And so I think it's important for us to have a conversation when we have time to do it, not now. Maybe in our next meeting, maybe on July 15th, to establish a framework and kind of effect an agreement amongst ourselves about how are we going to prioritize our actions? How are we going to pick which project or projects we take on next under our next climate action plan? And when we do have a cool new idea, what's the right framework or model for changing the plan? Or changing the level of priorities, or saying, you know, this was at the bottom of the priority set, but I want to move it up because it's timely now. I think we need to have that conversation and come to a general agreement about how to handle prioritizing and then how to integrate new developments and new ideas. I think that that'll be a beneficial thing for us to do. So I would propose, if people are game for this, that we take the next 2 weeks to think about that. How do you want to be? We're going to get all of these action items from Weston and Sampson in July. How do we want to process those, set our priorities? Let's try to figure out, what do you think the framework should be for establishing our priorities and then prioritizing certain actions under the plan? Because it's going to be time to start thinking about those kinds of frameworks.
And we've already talked about it a little bit, or they gave us some rubric or something.
They did, but we have to decide to do it or to do something else. So I think let's you know, take the next 2 weeks and we'll put it on the agenda for the 29th for our power hour on June 29, to have a first conversation about how do we prioritize and how do we pick the actions and side quests and new quests as they arise. Is that fair to assign to all of us for homework? Great, hearing no objection, that's what we'll do.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Unfortunately, I can't be here on the 20th. I'm gonna be traveling then. Is there a way to contribute not being at that meeting? Is there a spreadsheet, or what's the?
There's not a
I
spreadsheet. Excuse me,
Yeah,
but
I
why
would-
why don't you email, if you've got ideas that you want to incorporate, you won't be able to just email that to the whole group without it being a thing.
Yeah.
Send it to Shannon, Shannon will collect it and we'll be able to express it on your behalf in the meeting.
Okay, and that would be after we get the summary from Weston and Sampson, right? So it's reacting to
It will
that.
be before that.
Oh, okay.
I want to talk about a framework of how are we gonna prioritize and how are we gonna make decisions.
Okay.
And that can happen before we see the action items, and I'm suggesting it should happen before that.
Okay.
So that we'll have a good framework for processing those things, or at least, even if we don't come to an agreement on the 29th, we'll have talked about it and started thinking about
So
it.
we each could kind of come up with our own sort of process or idea for framework.
Yeah, what's important to you, and we'll have that out. Were you gonna say something other than that, Shannon?
No, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Just get it to me.
Great.
So are you saying you just want to talk process? You don't want to have us talk about what we think the priorities ought to be, just the process for coming up with priorities.
Just really a framework. How should we be prioritizing? And how should
The
we,
framework could include some substance.
if you wanna put your thumb on the scale, I'm not gonna bang a gavel and tell you to hush up, but. The point is to have a meta conversation and not the conversation, because we'll get more on July 15th from Weston and Sampson. We're in line now for a public comment. This would be anything from our members of the public who are here in the room or on Zoom that we did not discuss as part of our agenda. Now is the time. Right, hearing none, the chair would smile favorably upon a motion to adjourn to meet next in this room on June 29 at 1 p.m. Did we say 1 p.m.? 1 to 2 p.m. Chair, hear a motion?
Yeah.
Second?
Yeah.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.